okay after you're married? Is there still growth there? Is it once all the boxes are checked, does that growth flag go away? And does all of the insecurities that constantly are existing, can you still talk about those 20 years into your relationship? That's the flag, and that's what's critical.
Just be mindful of the time frame in which you're doing this too. If you're like a couple months in and you still haven't met anyone in their life, might be time to have a dialogue and say, "Hey, I've noticed that, I haven't met anyone in your life yet. What's going on here?" Hey everybody, it's Bianca.
And it's Emilia.
Welcome to another episode of Evolve Ventures, where we're helping growth minded humans evolve by breaking one limiting belief at a time. We hope you enjoyed the last episode, number 283, Motivation Monday. Don't get fooled by these red flags. For today, 284, green flags to look for in your relationship. So this one is going to be the opposite of the one that you heard on Monday. So what are the green flags? What are the go-goes, the go-tos that are the things you want to look for when it comes to intimate relationships? And honestly, this can be applied in any relationship, but we're focusing primarily on intimate relationships today.
I love the go-go. These are the go-go flags to just
Take
continue to
me
go
up
and build.
before you go.
Is
Okay,
that what that
anyways,
came from? Nice.
I had to.
So the last episode that we did for Motivation Monday 283, where we kind of ended on that one, you would have heard me talk about the third one being biggest red flag is how the halo effect can impact us when it comes to relationships. Everyone's heard of rose colored glasses. Everyone's experienced an infatuation stage where you get all lovey dovey butterflies, and those just let you see past all the red flags. So now, as we turn the corner, as we shift into the green flags, like what are those things that you need to, or that would benefit you? Let's just be real. Look for in a relationship. And I'm not just saying in the infatuation stage or in the like information gathering phase or in the okay, we've been in this for 3 months, how are we going to take this to the next step? Like this is green flags to look for in your relationship and constantly be looking for. So whether you're in the relationship for 2 weeks or for 20 years, are these green flags still there? And this is probably one of my favorite episode topics, be because what I'm thinking about is like younger Emilia and all of my friends way back when, and how back then, gonna date myself a little bit, we didn't have podcasts that could really share the information that is so wildly obvious and backed by science to really help us navigate relationships in a way that's adaptive, in a way that's healthy, in a way that is like so easy to understand and comprehend. Back then, what we just had was our parents' ideas of what are green flags, right? And for a lot of our listeners, that still might be the case. Go ahead.
Not only that, but we grew up when we were entering into like quote unquote dating years, like when we were 13, entering into adolescence. That's when like
Yeah.
the internet and social media really started booming. Like
Truth.
Instagram and Facebook and MySpace. Oh my God, MySpace. All
Ah!
these different platforms really started to emerge. And there weren't like influencers and experts and whatever else creating really high value content back then. It was just people
Right.
sharing kind of like the highlight reel type of stuff that they shared today. It was just a lot cringier, but
It was the Wild West. It still
oh
is the
my
Wild West,
God,
just a
it
different
really
version.
was. Yeah, yeah, to say the least. But I just wanted to make sure that I said that on top of what you were saying.
Yeah. Right. So why I mentioned that and why that's beneficial for our listeners today is because not only, are you well familiar with what your parents believe are green flags for like relationships, or your grandparents or whoever your caregivers were, right? I do feel as though not just feel, but the evidence shows, the data backs it up, that there's no family that ends up being very quiet of what they believe is best for you, especially when you're growing up underneath their household, right? It's not like they're like shutting their trap on that one and saying, "Yeah, I don't know if I really have a leg to stand on in terms of my opinion because you are a completely different individual than I am." There's not a lot of that going on. So, we're all too
No.
familiar with what the green flags look like in your relationship. for you based upon what your culture, what your gender, what your family believes. Now, I want to say what this episode is going to get into is not that. It is not from your family. It is not from your culture. It is not from the gender. It is not any of that. Quite contrary, it is rooted and based in science and scientific and clinical data that continuously is always at the top when it comes to the test of time. So, what do I mean by that? I mean, the things that we're going to get into today are withholding no matter what changes in the world in terms of what the macro and microeconomics are, what's happening in terms of the seasons, no matter where you are in the globe. And I think that that's a fundamental principle that is really critical to say here, because what we're going to be sharing is principle based. And so, again, it translates across cultures, it translates across different dialects. It translates
Mm,
no matter who you are, so long as you have a brain. This science translates. So that's one of the things that I'm super excited to share. So, number
well,
one, green flag. Number one, B. So, you and I both have experiences, not only in our personal, intimate relationship history, but also in speaking with plenty of clients, friends, community members about how challenging it can be when you're navigating the seas of intimate relationships and trying to find the partner that's best for you, that you can be mostly, not mostly, all of you with. And that's hard as it is. But the number one thing that makes it even more difficult is when you do find someone that you believe would be your person and it would actually contribute to a really great relationship. It comes to, okay, when do I share this person with my innermost circle? And we have had experience with not only being the person probably being hid from our partner circles or being kind of put to the side and not introduced to the partner circles for whatever reason. And we've also had the experience where maybe we weren't the ones that wanted to introduce our partners to our innermost circle for whatever logic, whatever reason. The green flag here is, again, across tribes, across cultures, across everything. The green flag is to look in your relationship, like I said, not just in the beginning, not just 2 years in, but 20 years in, how much they're willing to share their partner with the innermost circle. So I want all of our listeners thinking about, if you're in an intimate relationship right now, how open are you to sharing this person that you love and care about to your innermost circle? Are you on the fence where it's so good that you don't want your family to kind of screw with the relationship? Which, Bianca, I know you've experienced a little bit, and I have too. And that's one end of the spectrum. Or are you on the other end where you are so enamored by this person that it is the first thing that you want to share this person with is the people that you love and care about both the most. And there's no better feeling than that. So, B, talk to me a little bit about your experience with this green flag and how you've seen it in relationships, not just your own, but also with clients, and how this one principle of the green flag sharing with the innermost circle continues to be a green flag, no matter what culture, no matter what gender, no matter what, and what your experience has been like with
many questions wrapped up in one, but I got you. Okay.
that.
I'll start with my experience. My experience, I'm gonna say this very succinctly. I have yet to have an adaptive relationship. It
Mm,
just is what it is. I have yet to have a long-term healthy relationship. Every single relationship I have been in up until this point, in some way, shape, or form, has been extremely toxic, to say the least. Um, Partly because of me, partly because of the other person. I'm working on my own stuff on this, but that's all I can do is work on my side of it, which I have
mm,
done. So, with that being said, I have had many extremes about this. I've had people where we rushed so fast into the relationship and I was introduced to everybody in this person's life right off the bat. And it
Mm.
was way too soon because the relationship got rushed and we were really, really rushing steps.
Mhm.
I've had relationships where I met certain people in their life, but I wasn't introduced to others. I've had relationships where I met the people closest to them, but they wouldn't post me on social media, or they hid me from literally everybody because they didn't want anybody knowing A, that they were gay, or B, they just didn't want people knowing they were in a relationship and
Mhm.
used any which way excuse. And I was naive enough to believe it rather than being like, this is kind of shady. What's
Mhm.
going on here?
Yeah.
Um, the last relationship that I was in, I actually didn't want her meeting my family. And I was very open with her about this. I said, because I wasn't on good terms with them back then. And we were really struggling through things. And I said to her, at this point in time, I don't really intend on having a relationship with my family. And I don't trust that it's going to be a safe environment if I were to bring you. I don't know what they're
Mhm.
going to do. I don't know what they're going to say. At that point, they had made it very clear that they wanted nothing to do with my quote unquote lifestyle and my life choices. Um, and so I told her, like, listen, I'm not going to bring you around them, but here's why. And here
Mhm.
are the people I want to bring you around because these people at that point in time matter more. They're the
Right.
people that are the closest to me. I trust them more than anything. So,
Mhm.
like, I brought her to meet you guys. I brought her to meet other friends of mine.
Yeah.
Um, and for me, that was my version of that green flag because I was willing to have the dialogue around it. With
Mhm.
so many clients that I've seen and that we've had these dialogues with, a lot of the clients that I see do end up having an anxious attachment style. I have a solid handful of my clients are avoidant, and it's
Yeah.
interesting working with them being
Gotta
so
be.
opposite on the spectrum of them. Um,
Mhm.
but most of my clients are anxious, and one of the things that we really work on is number one, like needing to take the time to
Mhm.
allow that to happen. This is a green flag, yes, wanting people to involve you in their life, but you can't rush it. And a lot
Yeah.
of people with an anxious attachment want to rush it. So
Mhm.
that's one of the biggest things too. This is a green flag within the right time period. If you're like a
Mm.
week in and you're like, introduce me to everybody, it's like you don't even know them. If you meet them on like a dating app, you don't even know their last name because it doesn't put it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just be mindful of the time frame in which you're doing this too. If you're like a couple months in and you still haven't met anyone in their life,
Mhm.
might be time to have a dialogue and say, "Hey, I've noticed that, I haven't met anyone in your life yet. What's going on here?"
Yeah, yeah. And why we're coming from the angle of rooted in psychology, obviously, and making sure that we share the fact. And I'm really actually glad that you mentioned the attachment styles here because everyone has a different temperament and everyone has a different attachment styles. However, no matter the attachment style, no matter the personality, no matter the temperament, no matter what you do for work, whatever, you will have a tribe that you surround yourself with. You will have specific people. Maybe they're not, blood family, but you might have a group of friends that you surround yourself with from a social standpoint. We are social creatures. So that's why this is a principal green flag. You surround yourself, you surround yourself with a circle of people that support and encourage your values, your beliefs, and your aspirations to exist in your world. And when you encourage and introduce someone into that, it's a whole different level of psychology that essentially connects. This relationship is something that I want to lean more into. This is a green flag, and this is something that I want to go on. Whereas if there's hesitation or if there's pullback or if there's avoidance, there's always something to be explored, which is why I'm grateful that you shared that, Bianca, because at the time for you thought what was best for your relationship was given all of the data that you had up until that point and you approached that conversation with her, which was really, really helpful. And sometimes a lot of people will not have the courage to do that. And that's what can be, another red flag. And usually it comes down to the lack of confidence of being able to actually articulate what is going on, or fear of judgment or
Mhm.
whatnot.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was gonna go to the second one, the second green
Go
flag. But
for
if you
it.
have
Go
anything to
for
say
it.
on that, okay. Which
Go
really
for it.
leads me to the second green flag to look for in a relationship, or in your relationship. Quite frankly, if you've been a listener, a long time lover, long time listener, an evolver at your core, and you've been honestly in this journey with us, you know through and through that Bianca and I are probably some of the most growth oriented people you might have in your circle. And we're grateful for that, because we get to show you what it's like, no matter the season of life, no matter what relationship comes in and out of your life, how important it is to have a growth mindset about it. And that's the green flag number two. Being growth minded is so, so critical in a relationship. Why? Because if you're open to discuss, let's say, insecurities, or if you're open to sharing a vulnerability of yours, if you're willing to, like Bianca just highlighted, say that I'm not really ready for our relationship to be exposed to my family, because right now I don't believe that that's what's going to be best for us, and here's why. I'm open to having a dialogue around it, and your partner is growth minded too. You're able to essentially weather the storms that are naturally going to come in a relationship, and it's not going to be the downfall of your relationship when things are tough. And that's a critical component. So while there might be an insecurity or a vulnerability or a challenge that's illuminated in being in life as two humans, you will be able to respond to it, and how you respond to that makes all the difference.
Hello, my name is Bree, and I'm head of Evolve Ventures Media and Energies. So I would say my experience at Evolve has been absolutely amazing. I have learned and grown and done so many things that I didn't imagine that I'd be doing just over a year ago. So I'm really happy to be a part of the team, and I encourage anyone who has the opportunity to join. Yeah, so this is an experience that I don't think I would have gotten anywhere else. So it's definitely unique, and there's so many like-minded people, whether it's on the team or in our community, that can be by your side and support you. So that is an awesome experience.
One thing I really want to make sure that I highlight here is it's very easy to fake a growth mindset. So be mindful of
Oh.
that. It is extremely,
Mhm.
extremely easy to look like you're into growth. That is something that in the past I got really bamboozled by, kind of to
What
talk
does
about
that
the
look
last
like?
episode. I got
Bianca,
real fooled by it.
yeah.
People
What does
s-
it look like?
ju- Exactly what we talked about in the last episode. Literally
Okay.
exactly what we talked about in the last episode. People posting the right things on social media, people talking the talk, people making it seem like they read all of these books or they do all of these things, or, ooh, I listen to podcasts and whatever.
Yeah.
It's easy to fake it, but is their day to day actually showing that they have a growth mindset? Is their day to day? You and I did an IG live where we were talking about effective decision making when it comes to dating, when it comes to spending money. We've done a couple of these, and
Yeah.
you really spoke about the fact that it's in the daily choices that you are making where your character really shows, where your ability to
Right.
make really good decisions shows up. And you have to give it, and what we had said was you have to give it enough time to
Mhm.
actually let yourself see the reality of it.
Right.
A lot of the people in my life and in my past have done a really good job of making it seem like they were growth oriented and like they were into growth because they were puffer fishing to match me
Right. Or trying to gain
and
acceptance.
trying to get acceptance, trying to gain validation, trying to get whatever. Um, and not only me, but in their own life, they were the person that people thought of as the growth minded person, the growth oriented person, whatever.
Right. Right.
It's easy to fake because it's not like physical health where it's like you see it right there. A person's
Yeah.
body
Yeah.
is the outcome of their daily choices. But when it comes to growth, when it comes to inner growth, it's so easy to fake it.
Right.
Anybody can go right now and rent a studio to take a picture on a jet. There's thousands of people that do it all over the place. If you look on social media, people will literally rent a jet just to take photos in front of it. You can
Yeah.
easily you can easily
Yeah.
fake growth by saying the right things and posting the right things, but is your day-to-day actually living it? And that's what Emilia means when she says we're two of the most growth-oriented women you'll see, because our daily habits are us walking the walk, not just talking the talk. That is the green flag right there. What does this
Yeah.
person's day to day look like? And now, a
Mhm.
strong caveat here, we are
Mm.
not saying they have to be as extreme as Emilia and I.
Definitely
Neither
not.
do you, right? You listening to this, your entire life does not have to be growth and personal development and whatever, because that's not adaptive for everybody. That's not the right lifestyle for
Yeah.
everybody. And that's okay. But
Mhm.
is this person, and are you willing to learn, willing to grow, willing to look at these things and maybe have hard conversations and
Mhm.
do these things that a growth minded, growth oriented person does? It's not just about my entire life is this, it's about the daily choices that you're making and the type of person that choice embodies and becomes.
Facts. I'm so grateful you said that. A couple of things that I want to comment on there. So, for example, you and I, like, if we were to actually pull people behind the scenes and see like what our life is like, it's like that would be scary, I think, for a lot of people because our growth we take to a whole nother level. And it is so holistic and integrated with everything that we do, right? We're hyper growth people and we love evolving. Like that's through and through in our nature. And you'll see it in our systems, in our dashboards, in our journals, like in every aspect of our life, and that's the beauty of that. And so, with that being said, why I mentioned that and why I want to comment on that is because there are different levels. And, the physical body, like for example, you can make a quick assumption based on what that person's habits look like that have accumulated to that type of body, right? Or what genetics they are predisposed for to have that type of body. Whereas within growth, there
Mhm,
are so many different levels and there's so many different depths of those levels. And it's not just linear. It's very it's holistic. And so it's something that it's really difficult to tangibilize and really say, like, oh, this person is a 10 out of 10 growth minded because all of that is relative to whatever you believe growth minded is and to your consideration set. So, like, for example, if you were comparing to, let's say, some quantum physicists in a circle of all of those scientists, how growth minded are you? You'd probably rate yourself at a level 1 in comparison to someone who can be even open to the fact that we don't exist in this universe. Someone who has that level of thought and is growing in a capacity that is hard for our brains to even comprehend, right? So
yeah.
that's very different than if you were to grow up in a small town and in a town that just everyone's repeating the same cycle, and then all of a sudden you're the one person that continued reading after high school. You were that one person that actually maybe went to college or decided to have goals or dreams, even if they are family oriented or even if they are just like a small reading goal. So it's all relative. You might be the 10 out of 10 growth minded human when you compare yourself to all of the people of your past. But again, does your relationship have growth in it? Is there growth mindedness in the relationship? Again, not just in the first initial phase when they're trying to win you over or gain, your admiration, or they're trying to make sure that you guys can eventually fulfill that dream of being married. But it's after, okay, after you're married, is there still growth there? Is it once all the
Mm,
boxes are checked, does that growth flag go away? And does all of the insecurities that constantly are existing, can you still talk about those 20 years into your relationship? That's the
mm,
flag, and that's what's critical. So what does that actually look like? It looks like humility, it looks like vulnerability, it looks like being able to get deeper than just the surface. And if you're in a surface level relationship, you'll know that growth mindedness is something that is like man, I actually heard, this is so funny and semi inappropriate, but I love it and I want to keep us real. I had one of my clients say, honestly, growth to me is better than sex. And I would take growth minded conversations over that any day, every day. And I died laughing because someone who's that growth minded and who doesn't have a comparison set who is growth, that shows you how much of a craving there is for people that have
Mm.
growth minded. Now, obviously, that's not everyone. And obviously, that's a unique
I
taste,
mean,
to each their own.
good for you, but how about both?
Right, exactly. How about both? And that's where the green flag, when you can have a relationship that can be growth minded and open to having dialogues around insecurities and challenges and whatnot, that is so critical. And that does exist. And it's not a 0
Yeah.
to 1. There is a 0 to a 0.1 to a 0.12 to a 0.3. There's different layers and different levels to all of that. So what is the growth mindedness that's currently in your relationships, or one that you're looking for? I had another
Yeah.
conversation with a client today, and he literally was talking about past relationships and what bubbled up to the surface for him as he enters in the zone of conscious dating and preparing for the conscious dating realm. That is a number one marker that he didn't realize back then when he was in his past relationships was not there, because he didn't even know what a growth mind was or a growth mindset was. So even this one
Yeah.
new awareness can help you understand, does this person have goals, even if they're small? Does this person, you know, are they open to having dialogues? And this is the third green flag. Are they willing to enter into, work through, and resolve conflict? So this
Mm.
is green flag number 3 because it is so critical. There's so much evidence and data and personal experience that backs this one. I I look back at some of my relationships, B, and I know you have this experience too. That like, and honestly, when we talk to our clients and we hear, and I coach couples too, so it's like it's fascinating to see how this one just shines through. It's such a fundamental principle that points to the fact that excellent and extraordinary relationships, even if they seem extraordinarily ordinary, one of the key facets, and I mentioned this in one of our past episodes, one of the key elements of great relationships is healthy conflict and the ability to work through conflict in a positive, constructive manner. So just having the
Yeah.
willingness to approach a hard conversation that is conflict in its nature is so critical. Because if you're willing to approach that, enter into, work through, and resolve conflict, you will be in the category of a relationship that can be extraordinary, that can be great. Because statistically speaking, so few people are think that conflict is a good thing and therefore never enter into, never work through, and never resolve conflict.
Can I add a little stipulation?
Please.
Also, are they starting healthy conflict dialogues with you?
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by that is it always you that's bringing things to the table of like, hey, I noticed this, or, I'm having a hard time with this. Can we talk about it? Or are they coming to the table with stuff like that too? In my past relationships, it was always me calling
Yeah.
things out. And they would
Yeah.
be willing to like meet me in the conversation, but their avoidance or their insecurities or their anxiousness or whatever, they never actually started these conversations. It was always me. And so
Right.
I'm thinking, oh, yeah, they're able to have these dialogues without realizing, oh, they're actually not telling me a lot of what's going on with them. They're
Mm-hmm.
kind of just hearing me out and we're having these conversations, but they're not being honest and truthful about what's going on with them. And they're hiding
Right.
a lot of stuff. So, are they willing to have these dialogues with you and do them in a really adaptive and a functional way? And also, are they coming to the table with
Mm-hmm.
stuff and
Yeah.
room to grow and trying to have really productive, healthy conversations that lead to positive changes in the relationship?
Yeah, because conflict is inevitable. And that's the thing. A lot of us are built to believe that conflict equals bad. That's a very quick formula and quick narrative that we have in our consciousness. And so relationships never actually get good, nor do they get great, nor do they get extraordinary because of that one thought that conflict equals bad. Conflict
Yeah.
equals we're going to break up. Conflict equals, this person's not going to love me. And that's just such a surefire highway to actually sabotage the relationship. Because if you have, let's say, for example, like I have a client right now who I'm so proud of her. She's in a new relationship and she's really falling in love, and it's not like
Mm.
a infatuation, put on the rose colored glasses, dismiss all of the red flags. She's actually in a relationship for the first time where she is working through these conflicts, these insecurities, these vulnerabilities that are coming up, and she's working through the narrative of, well, if I bring this up, then we're going to break up, or he's not going to love me, or he's not going to be able to handle it, and so eventually we're not going to be together. And she was able to catch that narrative now, large in part, Bianca, because of the work that you and her had done together, and now the work that she and I are doing together is helping to reinforce that narrative and actually have the courage to bring these things up when she's noticing that inner narrative and that conflict concern and conflict former avoidance come up. And instead she's willing to lean into, this is a bug in the garden and I'm concerned about it, and it's impacting me in this way, and I know and I trust in our relationship, and I have to bring it up. Can we have a dialogue around that? And that is an example of a really productive, healthy conflict. And I see you cheesing because I
I
know you know who I'm
love
talking about.
that. I
Yes,
love them
big
so
wins.
much.
Big wins. It's amazing what that can do for
Oh,
someone. Because think
that's
about that.
awesome.
If she had not rewired that relationship with conflict, she would not be able to have these vulnerable dialogues and thus inject growth into her relationship. And she's proving to herself that her partner is grateful for the conflict, because that shows him a little bit more about who she is and how he can show up to support her and show her that she is loved regardless of how it impacted her. And I think that a lot of us fear that when we do bring up conflict, or when we do bring up something that's bothering us, it's going to have an end all be all. And we just go straight to all or nothing thinking, well, if there's conflict, then
Yeah.
we're not going to be together. And it couldn't be more the opposite. So to round out the 3 flags in your relationship to look for, we want to encourage you to consider looking at number 1, which is sharing with your innermost circle. Are you and are they willing to and eager to, in the time frame that honors who you two are as individuals and who you two are in a relationship, willing to share each other with their innermost circle? Number 2 is their growth mindset within this relationship. And how does that show up? Is it in the little moments where you have a difficult conversation? Maybe it's conflict, and instead of shutting down and closing off and not having a dialogue, your partner actually takes ownership and with humility says, you know what, I'm sorry, I really screwed up there, and I'm going to get better from here. Can we talk about some of those options? That's huge. And then number 3 is the willingness to enter into, work through, and resolve conflict. And the stipulation that Bianca put in there is like both partners coming to the table, not just one.
Absolutely. If this is something that you want more help with, if you want help learning how to identify green flags, how to understand what the red ones are, and how to really tell the difference, Emilia and I are both taking new clients, whether you're looking for therapy or coaching. We're taking new one-on-one clients, and we also have the brand new You Do You program that we already have a good chunk of people signed up for, and they are loving it. And
Loving.
that's coming from them. They said that it was an amazing experience, and they're so glad that they joined. So those are 2 options you have at your disposal if this is something that you really need help with and that you're looking for more guidance on. What is your episode suggestion?
277 Motivation Monday, 3 ways to be heard.
3 W's.
3
Mine is
V's.
262. How much is actually your responsibility? All right, everybody. We hope this episode added so much value to your life. And we will see you next time. Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.